Look at the situation in Birmingham, right? In Birmingham, you had this white guy that was approached by a gang of foreigners, black men in this situation, and they reacted in a tribe, in a herd, and started attacking the white guy. How many times have I got to say it? These people will always act tribally. You are not the same as them. They don't like you very much. I think it's in every white man's benefit, and this is going to get me in trouble. It's going to sound a little bit racist. I don't really care. It's in every white man's benefit to be a little bit racist and to look out for your own safety, which means avoiding areas where there are large foreign populations where you may be in danger of being attacked. I quite respect my safety. I will refuse to go into areas where I know there are large ethnic minority communities where I could be in danger of being mugged or attacked. Is that wrong of me to say? Is that wrong of me to have that opinion, to recognize pattern recognition? I'm only looking out for my own safety. There's many situations where if people were like that, if they thought more racially, if they were a little bit racist, everybody's racist, all right? You want the truth? Everybody's racist. Blacks are racist. Asians are racist. I'm racist. I don't care. Because I understand that there are differences between us and people perceive one another differently based on race. If people like Iana were a little bit more racist, she'd be alive right now. And that's the sad reality of these situations. If people like Louis were a bit more racist, he'd be alive right now. If people on the Huntington train were a bit more racist, they'd probably have gone without an injury because they would have moved to a different carriage. I've said this to people in private. I don't really care. If I had an option of a tram and you've got a carriage that's full of foreigners or one that's full of white people, and the one full of white people's fully packed and I have to stand, or the one full of foreigners has got seats available, I would go and stand up every single time because I care more about my own safety and recognizing that there's a much higher chance that I'll be safer in that environment than the other. And if that makes me the bad guy, if that's a crime to say, which is weirdly enough, maybe, who cares? Who gives a shit? Because you're all thinking it, and I'm thinking it, and the foreigners are thinking it as well. Everybody's thinking it. Everybody knows it. People just don't want to admit it. Which is why when I come along and I say it, and everybody like gets taken aback, wow, how Hugh's just said that. That's ridiculous. It's the truth. You know that. If the chap in Birmingham was a little bit more racially conscious, which I imagine he is now, he would have moved away from that group and not even tried to involve himself in a situation with them. If I'm ever out and there is a gaggle of foreigners, I will never ever involve myself in a situation with them because there is 0 point knowing the risk is going to be they will be tribal, and if something was to kick off, it would be them versus me. I'm aware of that. I'm sure all of you are aware of that. But to say that is apparently an extremist position. Is that extreme or is that nature? Is that extreme or is that simply the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in? And to make matters worse, when you look at the reaction of the police around these situations, like we saw in Birmingham, and it feels like week in, week out, we are saying the same thing about these situations. When you look at the reaction of the police in Birmingham, their first response to the gaggle of blacks attacking the white man is to go for the white man. And for the white man's defense, I'll say this. He was obviously in a state of confusion, obviously a little bit pumped up with adrenaline, trying to make sure that he was okay because he was being attacked from every angle. And then another person grabs him and shoves him against the wall, so he responds by swinging. Turns out it's a policewoman. Of course, it's a fucking woman. To which, the second he recognizes that, you can watch him, he calms, puts his hands down in a non-aggressive manner. But then she says, "You don't dare smack me in the back of the head. You're under arrest. You're under arrest." Whilst the gang of blacks walks away completely uncontested after they initiated the physical altercation, the affray. And I saw the after video where the blacks were questioned by the police. They gave their statement and the police let them go. The police let them go. They let them go because of training inside of Birmingham. Now, in Birmingham, the police force there is told that they have to not police so hard against the black community. They quite literally have special training not to enforce the law against the black community because it is seen as prejudiced. You know what my advice is? Rather than enforcing DEI policy, which attacks white people more, maybe blacks just shouldn't commit a majority of the crime at a statistically higher rate. Maybe black individuals just shouldn't be violent at a higher rate. Maybe they shouldn't commit gang crime at a higher rate. Maybe they shouldn't commit homicide at a per capita higher rate. Proportionality-wise, they are far more likely to commit a crime than the white man. Is that wrong for me to say? Why do we need policy to soften people's actions rather than put forward a genuine police force that takes care of their actions instead? Why are we allowing them and pandering to them to commit crimes and violence and all of this at a higher rate, and then the response is simply, well, you're black, we're not going to do anything about it because that would be seen as racism. That would be seen as white privilege. Oh, it's socioeconomic factors. I've seen this so many times, over and over and over again. The police are so light on the minority communities who do commit crimes at a much higher rate statistically. And I know what everyone likes to bring up. Everybody likes to say this continuously. They like to bring up the fact that the white population is 83% of the total UK population, not the British population, because you've still got European whites. But then 88% of all sexual offences are whites. And they're like, well, Asians don't commit that much because they're only 7% of the population, but commit 8% of the sexual offences. So you can't make that comparison. Yeah, but also if you look at the census, they classify Pakistanis and Indians with Chinese and Japanese. The Chinese and Japanese are nice people. The Indians and Pakistanis, they're the ones that make up the grooming gangs. All these censuses are flawed. They're all flawed. They hide 66% of the ethnic minority's identity. They push away all the stats. They have communities and police forces and councils that suppress the information, hide it away because it's going to reflect badly on a population. And then because of that, because per capita, these people are committing more crime, the police are like, oh shit, we can't implement harsher policing against them because that will be perceived as racist. So instead, we'll put forward policy that gives us a much nicer stance towards them. Like these fucking Jamaican festivals that you've got in London, where you've got all of these blacks going around twerking, being degenerates, doing drugs, carrying knives. And the police are sat there dancing with them. Like, what? What are we doing? Why are we not policing? Why are we not being serious? Why? Why are our police force so against us to the point where they are pandering to the foreigners. And I tweeted this earlier. I said, look, Henry Nowak, this case in Birmingham, the fact that after Southport, it was nothing to do with the minority communities attacking our people. It was all on the far right. The fact that our system is always attacked down the far right, it's always attacked down the white man. DEI policy, the Equalities Act 2010, the Race Relations Act 1965. I said all of this policy is not an accident. It is not just an accident that week after week you see the police using excessive force on the white man. That is a system implemented against you because it is fundamentally revenge against the white man.